Hey everybody, welcome to another con support video. This one is on slope-intercept from 2 points. So you're given 2 points and you got to find the slope-intercept form of a line. So let's go. All right, so here you guys can see the first ordered pair that they're giving us is the ordered pair 1, 4. Okay, and the next ordered pair they're giving us is the ordered pair, once this finishes, okay, 2, 2. All right, so remember, this is an x and y from the first point. This is an x and a y from the second point, right? And so when you're talking about slope-intercept form, you want it in y equals mx plus b. And the easiest way to do this is literally to find the slope first. And if you guys remember, the slope is just change in y over change in x, right? So if we want to find the slope, all we have to do is figure out what the change in y is and put that over change in x. So change in y is going to go on top, so I'm going to do it on top. And then the change in x is going to go on bottom, so I'm going to do that on bottom, okay? So basically, we're looking at this situation here. So how do we get from 4 to 2? Well, you'd take away 2, right? How do we get from 1 to 2? You'd add 1, right? So that means that your ratio, change in y over change in x, your slope, is going to be the ratio of negative 2 over positive 1, which means that your slope, in this case, happens to be negative 2 over positive 1, which is negative 2. So your multiplier is negative 2. So now we know that that's negative 2. Awesome. Now, once we have that, the next thing you're going to want to do is just take either point. I'm going to take this first point, okay? Take those x and y values and plug them into your equation. So we know when x is 1, the y value is 4. So we know that 4 equals negative 2 times 1 plus or minus something, right? And we just got to find the b. We got to figure out what the y-intercept is going to be. So negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. So 4 is equal to negative 2 plus b. You want to solve for b. How do you undo minus 2? You add 2 to both sides. And you're going to get 6 is equal to b. So we know the y-intercept in this case is 6. And so now the full equation would be that y is equal to the slope, which is negative 2, times x, and then plus the intercept, which is 6. And this is your equation of a line. Now, you always want to check it. So the way I recommend you check it is you take the other point and you check it. The other point should be on the line as well. So when you plug in a 2 for x, you should get a 2 for y. Well, negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, and negative 4 plus 6 is in fact 2. So that works out perfectly. We have verified that it works on both points. Both points are on that line, and so we can write it in. So it's going to be y equals minus 2x, and then plus 6. And now we're done. The next one that we're going to do is, let's go down a little bit. All right, this one is negative 10, negative 7, and then negative 5, negative 9. So now that I've explained it a little bit more clearly, I'm going to do this one a little quicker. So negative 10 minus 7, and then the other point that we have here is negative 5, negative 9. So first thing you do, find your slope. What's your slope? From negative 7 to negative 9, change in y. From negative 10 to negative 5, change in x. So your slope is just going to be the ratio change in y over change in x. So in this case, it's going to be, how do I get from negative 7 to negative 9? We add negative 2. And how do we get from negative 10 to negative 5? We add positive 5. So our slope is going to be negative 2 or positive 5, which is negative 2/5. Okay, so we know our multiplier is negative 2/5, or m in our y equals mx plus b. So now we have y equals mx plus b. We know that the multiplier is negative 2/5. So we know that we can then say this is the same as negative 2/5 times whatever x is plus b must equal y. Now we have an ordered pair. So let's take the ordered pair on the left. Let's use that, x and y values, to plug into our equation and solve for the missing y-intercept. So we know when x is negative 10, the y value should be negative 7. So we know that negative 7 is equal to negative 2/5 times negative 10, and it's got to be adding the intercept. We don't know what that intercept is yet. Okay, and we just solve for b. So when we solve this for b, what do we get here? We're going to do a little math. 5 goes into negative 10, negative 2 times, right? 5 and 10 cancel, 1 and 2. That's going to be negative 2. So negative times negative is positive, and then 2 times 2 is going to be 4. So we can see that what we really have here is that negative 7 is equal to 4 plus b. And if I want to solve for b, I got to get rid of this positive 4. So I'm going to minus 4 to both sides. And I'm going to get negative 11 is equal to b. All right. Once I have my b value, that's my y-intercept. Now I know the equation should be y equals the slope, which was negative 2/5, times x, and then plus the intercept, which is plus negative 11 or minus 11. So this is what I think the equation of the line is going to be. I think it's going to be y equals negative 2/5 minus 11. But I want to check to make sure both points are on it. I used this point on the left to find that equation. So now I'm going to check with the other point, the one on the right. Okay, so I'm going to check with this. We'll do a little check, see if it works. So when x is negative 5, y should be negative 9. Let's see if it is. So y equals negative 2/5 times negative 5 minus 11. Well, negative times negative is a positive. 5 goes into 5 once, so that's going to be positive 1 times 2, which is 2. So y equals 2 minus 11. And what is 2 minus 11? That's going to be negative 9. So when x is negative 5, y is negative 9 works. We verified that that is on the line, so now we know that this equation is correct. We've proven it to work. So now we go over here, we write y equals, and the ratio here is going to be negative 2/5. So we're going to do negative in front and then 2 over 5. Okay, negative 2/5 is our slope. And then that's times x. And then it's going to be minus 9, right? Not minus 9, minus 11. Okay, so anyways, we can see that now our equation, y equals negative 2/5 x minus 11, is written incorrectly. And we don't want the y equals because it already has the y equals, silly me. Y equals negative 2/5 x minus 11. That is correct. Now it looks right, and we can go. All right, next question. All right, so now you guys got the idea. I think it's making sense. I'm going to go even faster. You ready? Okay, so you can keep up. So for this one here, you've got 2 points. The first point is negative 9, negative 9. And the next point is negative 6, 0. All right. And you're going to do the first thing, find the slope. So from negative 9 to 0, you'd add 9. And from negative 9 to negative 6, you'd add 3. So what's your slope ratio going to be? Your slope ratio is going to be the change in y of 9 over the change in x of 3, which means you have a slope of 3. Okay, so we know the multiplier is 3. Now, the way I would normally do this, if I'm just doing it my own quickly in my head, I would say, okay, so we know we got an x and y over here, we got an x and y over here, right? We know that basically it's going to be negative 3 as our multiplier, as our slope. So x times negative 3 plus something's equal to the y, right? So let's look at this ordered pair right here. Let's look at the one on the left. I'm going to do this little mental math for you. You guys ready? So mental math, you'd say, all right, x times 3, right, plus or minus something should equal negative 9. Let's find out if it is. Negative 9 times 3 is negative 27. What would you add to negative 27 to get negative 9? Well, what would you add to negative 27 to get negative 9? You'd have to add 18 to that, right? So it looks to me like if we just do the mental math, right, you plug in a negative 9 for x, times it by 3, you get negative 27. The adjustment must be that you have to add positive 18 to that to make it end up at negative 9 again. So what I'm seeing as the equation would be this. Y equals 3x, right? And then the adjustment would be plus 18. That's what I would think is the equation, right? So if that's the equation, let's test it over here at this point. So what is 3 times negative 6? Negative 18. What is negative 18 plus 18? 0. It worked. So now I know that rule works. Y equals 3x plus 18. You guys see how I did it without having to write everything out? That's just a quicker way to do it in your head. It works pretty well, right? Let's do the next one, all right? So the last one here we're going to do, I'm going to scooch over to the right. There we go. I'm going to do this one the way I would naturally do the problem now that I'm feeling more comfortable. So 4, negative 8, and 8, 5. So now I'd say, all right, change in y on top. That's going to be add 13. Change in x on bottom. That's going to be add 4. So we're looking at a slope of 13 over 4 as your slope. So we know our multiplier is 13/4. Now I would just take it mentally and plug it in and see if I can figure out what the adjustment might be. So we know that's x and y, right? So let me see if I can write that nicer. X and y. So we know that 4 times 13/4 plus something is going to equal -8. Well, 4 times 13/4 is 13. What would I add to 13 to get -8? Well, I'd have to add a whole bunch, right, of negatives, right? So you'd have to go down to 0, so take away 13, and then take away an additional 8, right? So you're looking at basically 13 plus 8, but negative. So that would be what looks like 21 negative, right? So if I were to do that in my head as a mental adjustment, it looks to me like the y-intercept is going to have to be minus 21. It's like shunted down 21 from the origin. So now I'm looking at that and thinking my equation would be y equals 13/4 x minus 21. But I obviously want to check this to make sure that I didn't make any silly boo-boos. So I'm going to take the other point that I have there, plug it in and see if I get a true statement, right? So 8 times 13/4 is going to be 4 goes into 8 twice. 2 times 13 is 26. And then 26 take away 21 is at 5. And yes, it is. So it worked. So now I know that my rule worked. And that's kind of how I would do it after I'm really comfortable. So the first two examples I did slower. The last two I sped up just so you guys could see how you do it mentally, still showing your process. So in this case, the answer is y equals 13/4, 13/4 times x, and then minus 21. And you're welcome to leave the slope as a ratio. You don't have to do anything with it. And there you go. That's how you do those problems. Hopefully that helps, and you guys are feeling a little more confident with it after you saw me do it.